All right, today is exciting because this is our new studio setup, and you guys are the guinea pigs.
Woo-hoo.
You guys okay with being guinea pigs?
I like to be a guinea
So
pig.
how it works is we're gonna just pass the microphone around.
Okay.
We're not high tech. We're gonna be making lots of mistakes, and the mistakes are gonna make it real, for pretty real. And what's fun is just setting this up remind me so much of wherever we've been, and we just had to make use of what was available to us. And so today, this is literally all the pieces of my office put together. And if you can see what's on this side, it's a bit of a mess with my whiteboards and everything, but this is our office. But how about you guys introduce, so it's New Day for Children.
Mhm.
Phil,
Sharon.
Sharon, and Brandyn.
Mhm.
And we met at the event.
Mhm.
Brandyn,
Justice Crab Feed.
yes, and that was amazing. So now, tell me, what are your thoughts on Bigfoot?
I am actually
I
a
met him
firm
once.
believer. I actually am a firm believer in Bigfoot. Like shamelessly, I used to work up in the mountain. Actually, that's kind of how I got involved with New Day. But I
Was
actually
it because of Bigfoot?
no, I worked on a mountain with some of the kids we support, and multiple staff had Bigfoot stories enough to convince me.
Okay, give me a story.
We had a staff. Okay, hold on. Let me take it in. We had a staff come up. It's like a 45-minute drive, and half of it is like through thick woods, and he drives up and he walks into the dining hall like white, like a ghost. And he's a very intellectual kind of like staff member. So it wasn't like the guy who's always making jokes or whatever.
Mhm.
It was a very like kind of stoic fellow. And he was like, walked in terrified. And we were like, what happened to you? And he was like, guys, I'm trying to rationalize this in every way I can, but I can't. I just saw Bigfoot. and he was so convinced that's what sealed the deal for me. Cause I was like, he wouldn't lie about this. Like, he's not the guy to do that. And either he saw a massive bear or a man in a ghillie suit or Bigfoot. But I'm a firm believer in Bigfoot.
Okay.
That's more fun anyway.
How about you guys? Got any opinions?
We live, at 4,000 feet in the Sierra Nevadas, and we live a few miles from Calaveras Big Trees State Park, which is some of the largest redwoods in the world. And Bigfoot is known to hang out in the redwoods. So there's sightings and pictures of him too. So he goes from Redding all the way to
There's
Calaveras Big
multiple.
Trees.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, no,
it's like gorillas.
he travels quickly. He's a big guy.
No, I think there are multiple. I'm
There's
like
big
convinced
feet.
it's a
Yeah,
it's a
big feet, big
species.
feet. And Sharon, how about you?
I have nothing to add to this conversation.
So, I think just like Bigfoot, we have all these theories and beliefs, and there's a lot of make-believe stuff about rescuing kids.
Mhm.
And then there's a lot of real stuff that gets diluted because there's people doing crazy stuff. Tell me what you guys have experienced as far as rescuing kids. Now we're getting serious. Sorry.
No, you're good. It
We
was
jumped. I made that up as we went,
Oh,
by the
right.
way.
Well, we don't actually get involved in the rescue part. What we really believe is the rescue is incredibly important, but where we come in is after the rescue, because we believe that the rescue is not the end of that girl's story. It's the beginning of her journey to hope and healing. So that's why New Day exists. That's what we do. So from the rescue, we work with different programs. We work with law enforcement, advocates that really take that girl post rescue, and then we work with them from there.
Mm-hmm. So what we do, one of the first steps is safe housing. And that's what Brandyn was talking about earlier. She worked on a program not too far from here that helped kids that had been recovered from sex trafficking. And then we offer therapy as well, equine therapy, tutoring, education, medical, dental, and a whole host of other things for the kids. Because you want to heal the whole child, right? Not just physically extracting them. That's, of course, the first step, and it's crucial. But this is severe trauma. And so that's where the long-term care comes in.
And we have programs from Louisiana to California. We have one in Louisiana we're going to have 5 in Texas, 1 in Colorado, and 1 in California. And we don't we don't place girls based on geography. We based on need. Some of our programs are urban. So some of the times the part of the process is they may be runners. Part of the way they deal with the trauma is to run. So we would never put a girl that likes to run in an urban setting. We would put her in a setting that gives her enough room to run. And running is just part of the process. So the programs are comfortable with that.
What's running?
And they just go.
What's running for people who don't know what that is?
Brandon, you want to talk? You've got lots of running
Yes, I've got
stories.
lots of these. Running away. So that typically they're walking, they're not actually running, but leaving. They'll open a window and take off an alarm in the middle of the night and take off. Or if we're on like a run to town for a doctor's visit or something like that, sometimes they're looking at the door like, oh man, I just don't want to be here today, because trauma's hard. And working through it is, it's super difficult for a lot of these kids. So,
and go ahead.
And Brandon, you could speak to this maybe better than I can, but part of when you're trafficking, the girls and the boys that are trafficked, of course, get very good at disassociating. They literally mentally go somewhere else to deal with the trauma. And so once they're in program and they start feeling these things, it's really hard. And that's where the kids could be doing really great in their program for 3, 4, 5 months. And then they start peeling back those layers of what really has happened to them. And
and they don't know what to do with it at all. They
correct,
internally they're combusting and they just get me out of here. That's kind of the only way. So it's not like something like I'm upset because I don't like a rule, or I don't want to be here because I don't like the staff. It's usually not that kind of thing. It's typically I'm overwhelmed with what's happening in me and I want to get to familiar. How do I get to familiar? And they'll take off. So that's running. Yeah.
And the running isn't a bad thing, right? So staff will just follow them with a walkie-talkie, make sure they're okay. If they've been out for a while, let them scream, cry, whatever they need to do. Bring them some food if they need it, or water, and then they come back, and dig in again and start again. And it's just part of the process.
So a typical kid would run a few times.
All different.
They're all different. Yeah. Like some kid will take off weekly and you're like, all right, here we go again, multiple times a week.
Put your tennis shoes on.
Yeah, exactly. But then others never do. And some might go once and realize, oh, this is actually, no one freaked out on me. Like, I was thinking about telling this story, if that's okay. Yeah. We had, I took 3 girls on a med run one day to take one of the girls to a counseling appointment. And we were short staffed that day, so it was just me. Usually we work in pairs of 2. That's the program that I worked at. And so I took the one girl in to meet her counselor, because meeting people can be scary for girls who've been through what they've been through. And so the other 2 girls were in the lobby by themselves. And like Sharon had said a second ago, all had been well. They were doing well at the program. They were getting along. So there was no reason to think anything was funky, And I was in there for 5-10 minutes, and I came out and I look in the lobby and I'm like, these girls are gone. And we're, like Sharon was saying, we're in town. And these kids are very resourceful. They know how to make money, which is a scary thought. And
legally,
no, no, they don't. Not legally. So, you've got a timeline in order to get to these kids, or things can go south really quickly, and it can get very dangerous and very real for them. So, it's super scary as a staff, because you love these kids, and so, and you're worried for their safety, and that they're resourceful in dangerous ways, and they don't always think it all through, Anyway, so. These 2 girls had taken off, and I walked out and was like, oh my gosh, they're gone, kind of thing. And that was the first time that I'd ever had a kid run in town. So, because we were in a mountain setting, if they took a walk, it'd like, okay, we're following you behind down a long road, you're not going anywhere. But this was a different setting, And this is when the power of prayer came in for me big time, because I was like, Lord, you know where they went and I don't. And so I phoned a bunch of friends and was like, I need you to pray and ask God maybe for inspiration of where these kids may be. And people were saying, I got a picture of a park or this road. And I was like, okay. And so I picked a direction and I went in a direction because, they could go any which way. And I think they were missing for about 4 hours, and I had another staff come and get the other girl, and I continued to search for them in town. And I'd get a text like, hey, I had a mental picture of a park, or hey, I had a mental picture of this road. And so I was just following these like Jesus breadcrumbs, and randomly we had a friend of the campus driving, and she spotted these two girls, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I head that way, but they had seen her and took off running. And anyway, so I went to where they had seen her, but the time it had moved on a little bit. And so they were gone again. And so I just kept following these breadcrumbs. I went into a gas station and I was asking like, hey, have you seen two kids with these clothes or whatever? And they're like, yeah. They went across the street. I'm like, great. So I go across the street and ask, and I was able to find like they had called somebody there. I was able to call that contact, found out that contact was in fact a trafficker. Oh, no. So they had called somebody that they were familiar with to try to like get help basically. So it's getting scarier and scarier as you go, and at this point my prayers are getting desperate. Like, Lord, we need you to, like, these girls are starting to make scary choices. And I think an hour later, I just had the thought, like, I need to go to the nearest Dollar Tree. And I went, and driving past the door, I see one of them. Her hair is all disheveled because it was a hot day, and she had just sweating from walking, and they were in sweatpants. So it was like really, really hot. And she saw me and like exhaled and like beeline to the car. And I would like to say that I responded like a glowing, amazing, but it was like a mom, like, get in the car. Like, I was so mad, but also relieved, you know what I mean? But, and I was like, okay, where's the other girl? And she was like, I don't know. We got into a fight and an argument, and we took off in different directions. So I'm like, okay, Jesus, like, and I was like, how long ago was this? She was like, about 20 minutes ago. So I'm like, she's here somewhere, and, I drive just across the street to the other parking lot, and, I spot her. She's talking to a woman at an ice cream shop, crying, and she's trying to use her phone because she was trying to contact us, but she didn't know our number. And I see her, and same thing. I was like, get in the car. And then after that, they get in the car, and I put on worship music, and I was quiet because I knew that that my words wouldn't have been lovely at that moment, because I was so, it's super scary. Yeah. And so we do the drive back to campus, and the whole time you just hear sniffling in the back seat. And my heart's getting softened by the worship and softened by the sniffles. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good that they're here and that they're safe. We get up to campus, and one of the managers, who's like one of the main, like the head staff, and they're like terrified to meet, like what is she going to say kind of thing. And the girls get out of the car, and she just opens her arms, and they run into her arms, and they just sobbed together. And it was the most healing moment for them, because if they were with a trafficker, that would have looked very different. If a trafficker found them, you know what I mean? But somebody safe and loving found them, and it was just really beautiful and healing, and they never ran again.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was definitely, it's like one in my pocket. Like, that makes me happy.
Yeah, we had another girl in another program that was kind of going through the same thing, but she jumped up on the roof, and she was on the roof of the program. Yeah, and they got her to come down, and then like 3 or 4 weeks later, it went on, and she was going through some struggles, and she was talking to the director, and she said, yeah, but at least I didn't go up on the roof this time.
I'm growing.
Wait, and this same girl has since graduated her program. She's super, super lovely. She's back home with her family.
All three of them have, actually. Yeah.
Actually, all three did. So you just hang in there with them for as long as you need to.
Is it kind of therapeutic in a way that they get away for a second to realize, okay, I could if I need to, but I don't want to, this is safe? Is there a little bit of that?
Oh yeah,
I would say so. Yeah.
And I think sometimes they don't realize it's safe until they look back on it going, they make it just kind of that quick knee-jerk reaction, and then they think about, wait a minute, that's safe. That's safe back there.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, like the girl trying to call us, she was recognizing I am out of my element here. I'm being faced with decisions that I don't want to be faced with, because they'd been in a safe environment for a long time where they didn't have to worry about how to make money and things like that. And so suddenly they're faced with these choices and they're starting to remember, oh, it was good 10 minutes ago, you know? So
How old are these kids that you're talking about?
These particular two, I think, were 16 and 15 at the time.
And the other girl's 14.
Okay, so they're young kids. They're still kids.
Oh yeah, we work with minors is who we work with.
Yeah.
12 to 16
Is our average.
right.
Yeah.
But and lately we've had 8 kids in the last 10 days, which is more than we've ever had before. Our phone just blew up, but the ages were really young, 12, 13, 14. This year, we really can't pinpoint it, but the ages are younger. We're getting there for a while. We were getting 16s and 17s. The last 6 to 12 months, we're getting a lot of 12s to 14s.
The average entry age, the stat for the country is 12 to 14 years old. But we got a call for a 6-year-old last December of 22, and we've had several of our girls that were trafficked from very young, like preschool ages, that sort of thing. Yeah.
And this is here in America. We're not talking about overseas.
Yeah. So the stat is that 83% of all people being trafficked here in the United States are American born, and 1 in 4 is a child. And so if you think that there are kids being brought over in shipping cargo containers, that's still horrible. I mean, nobody should be selling anybody. I don't care where you're from, but I don't think people really realize that we're selling our own kids and our own people.
Yeah, when we talk to different groups, the first misconception is, oh, well, they're not American kids. And then the second thing they always say, well, it doesn't happen here. And I always say, yeah, 85% of them are American kids, and I don't care where here is, it's happening. You know, if you find a high school that's got 200 kids in it, I guarantee you there's a kid getting trafficked in that high school.
Guarantee, yeah, for sure. Oh, go for it. I was going to say that I think Shared Hope International, they estimate that it's 100,000 children being trafficked in the United States today. So,
but they estimate, but they also say because of the hidden nature of the crime, it's likely much, much higher than that.
It's like Bigfoot.
Yeah.
That's
You
true.
really
yeah,
don't
okay, I'll
know.
give you that.
Yeah. I'm still in a building right now that the reason the owner's just done because trafficking was happening in the building.
oh, wow.
And they just want nothing to do with that building now because it was just so hard on them to see what had happened.
You know, we were coming up from the Bay Area up here to take a girl to a program. And as we were driving up 5, she would go by like little towns and go, oh, I hate that town. Oh, I hate that town. Oh, I hate that town. Because she was trafficked all the way up 5 in the area. And like every off ramp on the freeway, there's where there's a cheap hotel. Oh, I hate that place.
So you just said you had some kids like 8, 12, what you were saying is something, you have new
6.
kids?
Oh,
What was that?
No, just a few weeks ago, we had 8 inquiries to place children. We've been able to place 3. We're still working on funding and placing the next 5.
And so where they come, like who's presenting them to you?
One, how'd they find us? They're from Tennessee. Their daughter just turned 12. Oh, she's in a hospital, and the hospital knew about us and referred them to us. We'll get
An advocate for
an advocate, a CASA advocate. This is a Bay Area girl who's just, my heart aches for. I really want to place this kid.
So the way we place kids is it's about 50-50. Sometimes a program that we support we'll have a kid and they'll say, hey, we just got a 13-year-old girl. Will you help support her? So we get a call direct from the program. Other time, the other 50%, it's an advocate. It's someone like that or the parents that call us going, hey, I heard about you. This is what's happening to my daughter. Can you help me? And at that point, what we do is we always start with, is there a bed available? Because we found several times last year we didn't have a bed. So the first thing we say is, okay, who's got a bed? And then we figure out what program has a bed. And then from there we say, okay, based on these two programs have a bed, which would be a better fit? And then we connect the parent with the program. Do like sometimes it'll be a psych eval to see where that child's at, and they'll go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So these are kids that actually are in homes that are being trafficked, and their parents are trying to get them healed.
Sometimes.
Yes. We've had kids from great homes. We've had kids from horrible homes, police chief's daughter, pastor's kid, school teachers, two parents intact, then just horrible, horrible families. I mean, it's everywhere. Wealthy families, very, very impoverished families. The truth is, if you're in our child welfare system, you are more at risk. Or if you're in a home that's drug addicted parents and neglect, you are more at risk than someone in an intact family. But technology, honestly, has put everybody's child at risk and sort of invited traffickers into our home. You should talk a little bit about gaming sites and social media dangers and how quickly that happens. And I think that they estimate 500,000 predators are online every single day in the United States looking for kids.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. Let me review my notes.
I've got attitudes about games in general, but now you're going to take it to another level.
Any app, social media, any gaming, anything with a chat feature, an online chat feature anything with an online chat feature is, they say poses a risk of hosting a predator online. I would go as far as to say is guaranteed to be hosting predators online, because predators are wicked smart. They know what they're doing. That's why they have like police dogs that go in and like sniff out tech, because these guys know what they're doing and how to hide things. Like, they're very resourceful, and so they're actively looking for ways to have access to children, and they're going to find the ways and access and use those ways. And so, yeah, anything with a chat feature is a no-go for.
Yeah, if we could say for one thing for parents, know where your kids are going on the internet. It's like so many times it's like, oh, they're going to they love gaming. They're going to the site. There's, 15 kids on it. They're all 14 or 15. One of those 15 kids is a 40-year-old that's looking to groom somebody on that. So,
sextortion. Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, that whole piece. So, know where your kids are going. You don't be afraid. Don't hand them the phone and then say, hey, I don't have to worry about this anymore.
And I would say, better yet, if your kids enjoy gaming, again, I'm probably on the same page with you about gaming, but I'm not anti-gaming. It's just, anywho,
I love it.
I would play with your kids.
Yeah.
Play with your kids. And unless you know every single person that's on there, their names, and that they're your child's friends, it's not okay. Mm-hmm. And you're putting your child at risk.
Right. Wow. So if you're a parent today, it's like, well, evil seems to like just have no boundaries, right?
Yeah.
And it's just so annoying because people, they ask us, what do you do? And it's a lot of times like, just, there are no boundaries with what the kids we get are. And it sounds like it's even worse now. There's just no boundaries. So here's a Bigfoot kind of question. How does demonic influence, in your opinion, how does it play a role in this?
Oh, I've got lots to say. You want me? Okay, so two things that I want to talk about, and I'm sure there's way more than what I'm about to say, but two things I have noticed is demonic like oppression of the kids, and the demonic essentially trying to keep them from healing, trying to keep them where they're at. And then also the demonic, I call it the cockroach effect. I'm coining this. I came up with it a couple weeks ago when I was trying to figure out like, how do I explain this? But if I were to take a group of 5 kids, and 5 of these kids are your like regular going to church every week, happy, really solid in their family foundations, just like kind of set up and okay kids. If 4 of them were that, and then 1 of them was a kid had been trafficked, if we go into a grocery store, this is the cockroach effect. Creepy men from the woodwork will come out and they will single out this one child, no matter where we go. And one, that's just so not fair. because these kids they can all be in a uniform, all dressed the same way. And this one kid in the group will be like sought out. And if that's not demonic, I don't know what is, because like what else how would you be able to identify that other than the just the demonic, like preying on that? And so I always say outside of healing and outside of what's the word I'm looking for? Intervention. That's the word. Outside of intervention. Thank you. Outside of intervention, these kids really have no chance. So.
And we see spiritual warfare at the programs.
Oh, yes.
It is really, really hard work, as Brandyn can attest to. So you've got directors, and directors are just passionate people about saving kids. But we see, they get tired, they get worn out. It's really, really hard work. But you see all sorts of spiritual warfare at programs and with the individual people that are working with the kids.
And because of this, a few years ago, New Day for Children started paying for therapy. Or spiritual counseling, whichever they choose for the direct care staff to help avoid compassion fatigue, secondary trauma, that kind of thing. And I would say too, I don't know if this is a rabbit hole, but
that's what this is all about.
Sharon lives in rabbit holes.
I love rabbit holes. But we were just talking about, the demonic and stuff like that. But traffickers choose a target. So let's say I'm a trafficker and I choose you for whatever reason. I see a vulnerability in you and I've chosen you, and they're incredibly manipulative and patient. Oof. And so I don't even know you, but you're on the bus every day at whatever time. So I'm going to get on the same bus. And then I'm going to sit closer to you and closer. Then we're going to start talking. Anyways, they develop a friendship and I'm going to gain your trust. And then I'm going to meet some sort of need, whether it's financial, physical, relational, emotional, parent, be your parent, whatever it is, I'm going to meet that need. And then I'm going to isolate you from your support system, your family, your friends, your community. And then after a certain amount of time, I just have this one little favor to ask of you. And it's just one time. And if you loved me and I've done all this for you, and you can imagine an adult can completely manipulate a child. And once they've done that, you can't go home. I mean, what would your mother say? I mean, you're dirty now. Or we had one of our girls who had never had sex. She's 14. I won't go into the story because it's quite graphic. But the guy said, I know where you live now and you have a little brother and sister. So you choose. Ugh. And she did whatever he said for almost 2 years because she's a 14-year-old kid with a man who had done horrible things to her, who threatened her brother and sister. And if she told anybody. So it's quite the process. Sorry, I'm going to go on a little bit. Oh, go ahead. You want to? Oh. So like in Sound of Freedom, it was such a well done movie. And it was, it was a story of kidnapping. So if we use our hand, gotta see where this goes, to talk about how kids are trafficked, only about 10% of kids, in fact, I think it's less than 10% of kids are that kidnapping is involved in their trafficking. So that's one extreme. And we've had those. Our very first girl was a 9-year-old walking home from school back in 2009. So that's one extreme. The other extreme is your pinky. And that's like, oh, I'm 14, 15 years old. I'm having sex. I might as well make some money. And they're self-trafficking. And I'll say two things about that. One, a trafficker often ends up picking them up. And two, these are kids. They may be making bad decisions, but they're still children and they deserve to be loved and provided for and cared for. So those are the two extremes, but most of it happens in the middle with the grooming and whatnot.
Yeah, 80% of kids that are being trafficked know their trafficker. It's that grooming process.
Yeah, or come to know them. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, if anybody ever wants to experience real demonic influence, it feels like anytime you get in this world. So a couple weeks ago now, I had a friend who needed a lot of help. End up having to spend the night in a hotel to make sure he wouldn't run. And for 3 hours, he told me story after story after story of how I don't see any of this stuff, like stuff that he was experiencing. But he would walk into a grocery store and meet somebody who they would just connect and do the grossest stuff together. And they're like, there's that cockroach that right. magnetism, somehow they can see, they spot each other who are weak, and they definitely, so his problem is he had these medications and he lost them. And so he didn't have enough medications. And every time he went in that zone, these things people would just latch onto him. So imagine there's a lot of that going on.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. The stat is that if a child is homeless or runs away, that within 48 hours, a trafficker has already targeted and found them. 48 hours. That's not very much time.
Yeah, like how outside of like demonic influence, like how do you know what I mean?
And are you going to talk about child sexual abuse material, CSAM as well, just what we're watching. And I think something that we need to have the conversation about, the stats I've read, and I haven't done a ton of research, but the stats I've read is just as many Christians are watching pornography today as non-Christians. So we have a problem. And pornography is way different than, I remember finding, I won't say his name, but we're talking in the 60s. I found a neighbor's Playboy magazine under a hay bale and his pickup truck. It's wrong for sure, but
different access because of the time.
Well, first of all, he had to physically get up and go somewhere. He had to face another human being. So there was that accountability, and he had to purchase something. Now it's anonymous. It's affordable because it's free and it's available. You've got a little phone, your computer, it's everywhere. And it is violent. It is so absolutely, it's just absolutely violent. And there's a stat that people that watch child sexual abuse material, child porn, they have a much higher probability of actually acting out on that. I was somewhere once, and I don't remember the speaker, but it was up in Northern California, towards Oregon. And she was a speaker on a stage. She got up and she just didn't say a word. She just started typing on her phone. Just silent, never said a word. Went like this. She put in an ad for sex with a child. Within a minute or two, she had 5 responses.
So here's a question that I have. With everything that we're experiencing, and we're talking about this world, political world, economic world, all these worlds, how do you guys maintain hope?
It's great.
That's
a great question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what we experience is healing actually occurs. You take people. Sometimes you get so wrapped up in the rescue and that you stop there. But we actually see, and we're up to 135 girls that we have helped now, is healing actually occurs. They become, whole amazing young women. And so and at the beginning, again, because one of the things that we do now is when we get a call, they'll send us the application. So I have to read the application. And for me, it's really difficult because I'm also in charge of finances. So I got to figure out, and our finances are now limited. For the first time last year, we had to turn girls away. So all of a sudden it's like, okay, we've got enough money for 2 girls, but I got 3 girls application here. And you read who they are and you read what's happened to them. And it is like it helps you understand a little bit of what it looks like to be God, because what God hears all the time on the prayers of people, it's unbelievable. It's unimaginable. But what we get to do is we start with this girl, and you read her story. I had a girl today, 12 years old, and the story just goes, started when she was 5 and this and that. But then you see those girls and you meet those girls and you watch those girls and you talk to those girls.
And you fall in love with those girls.
And you see hope. You see amazing. These women are going to own the world. They're confident. They're smart. They're
funny.
They're
funny.
just amazing. So I get my hope from the girls because it's really easy when you look at an application. Go, there's no hope here. This is the darkest thing I've ever seen.
Okay. The real part. So Phil and I, New Day for Children has been around. Look at that. Started as something, 3 sentences 3 times. So New Day for Children has been around since 2009. We're not the founders. And Christmas of 2014, we found out that a 12-year-old girl in our Sunday school class was being sold for sex in the Bay Area and had started when she was 10. So, I mean, we were her Sunday school teacher twice a month, and I was her midweek small group leader for 2 years.
Yeah, no.
Nope. Hadn't a clue. But before this, I was a violinist and he was in the restaurant business. So, of course, that really prepares you to run a nonprofit. Get to play the violin all the time. So honestly, that first year, I probably drank too much wine and cried a lot. I cried a lot.
Kind of did, right?
I know, it's true. Anybody that would listen, I would tell, I don't want this job. I don't want to do this. It hurts. I don't want this job.
Yeah.
It was a whole lot more fun to play the violin and I made more money. But I was doing my quiet time one day, and you know when you hear the Lord's voice and it's like so clear, and he said, stop crying. You need to stop crying. These girls don't need a wimp. They need a warrior. So let's get to work. I think what I tend to do, because I'm a pretty self-involved person, I try not to be, but I take my eyes off the Lord. And when I do that, the problem becomes too big. So for me, it's being super grounded in the word and looking to God. I don't understand why he doesn't intervene all the time. I don't, but it's not for me to understand right now. And I love hanging with the kids too, and watching their growth. We have one more small story, and then I'll pass it over. We had
one more rubber.
We have our life coach helped one of the girls that was in program long before we were involved. We didn't know her, but there's like 5, they're now women that were all in program together. And she helped one of them plan their wedding. And then they got an Airbnb together. So all these 5 women, and they're all doing well, very differently, but they're all doing really well. This was before your time. Yeah. And it was just like, Lord, that's cool. Because it is just not about that one girl, that one person. It affects her family, her community, who she chooses to marry, what kind of mother. We're talking impact for generations and generations, which is pretty powerful.
Right.
Yeah.
Where do you find hope, Brandyn?
So as like a former staff, it was really cool to because I would be there when they would show up. So sometimes it was like, well, this girl was rescued 2 days ago and now she's here, and so you do get to see from like day one to the end of their stay, or however long we would have them for. And they would always show up really distrusting, really fearful, reserved, all of those things, and by the end of their stay, completely different. And so that was amazing. And even just like the little glimpses, like there was this one, I tell this story all the time, but we had this one girl, she was from the Bay, very rough around the edges, a lot of slang talk and the occasional curse word more frequently than occasional. When this girl started out, similar to like how they would run, sometimes these girls will sometimes display intense tantrums is what we would call them. But this could look like breaking a window. This could look like breaking furniture. This could look like attempting to break someone's face, so this could be all across the board. But there was this one day there was a big, beautiful pond at this campus, and we were catching bullfrogs. and girl from the Bay has never caught bullfrogs, you know, and getting to see her inner child come out. She like gets up, and she's all of her friends at this point have caught a frog, and she's like, at the time I was Miss Pruitt. I'm Miss Gipe now, but she was like, Miss Pruitt, I'm gonna catch a bullfrog. I was like, you catch a bullfrog. And so she like gets up in the grass, and it's really tall, and she like moves the reeds, and she like reaches in, grabs the frog, has it in her hand, and goes, ah, and like chucks it, right? And then she like does the dance like, ah! And then she looked at me and goes, oh, did you see me? Did you see me? I had it in my hand. I caught a frog. And it was like a 2-year-old, you know what I mean? Like that, like innocent, joyful, just pure child. All the slang talk was gone. Like it was just child perfection. Right. And like that moment always guts me, because I'm like, if that's not a glimpse of healing and just being like, so those kinds of moments really fueled my hope. And then the Lord, like, you can't do it without Jesus. Okay. Some of those days were rough, but
I have a video on my phone, and it's like 4 of the girls on this in the same pond, and they've got a rowboat, and they've flipped it over, and they are laughing so hard. It's that same kind of, this is what kids should be doing, you know, not what was done to them. Yeah. And then I have another video, and they were welcoming a new girl, and there's 4 or 5 in a room they could have an animal at this particular, so they had their dog, and they sang over and over again that Peter Pan, something that Wendy Darling, it's the Neverland song. They sang it, and they were just singing to make this girl feel welcome, because you're in a new place. You don't know what to expect. You're far, far from home. And it was just really fun to see the kids just singing, and anyways, fun.
So I have 4 kids. So our 4 kids are completely different. They came from the same mom. They came from the same mom and dad. Same blood, everything's the same, but they're completely different. I imagine you've got all kinds of personalities here, but what are some basic things you see? Like, this is what, like, here's some basics. This is what we need to make sure that we come across with the kids. Have you guys come across like some basic principles that you guys have kind of followed with these kids?
Like in terms of, can you give like a little more?
People want to put all kids who have been trafficked are like this. Everybody thinks there's everybody thinks we rescue orphans. Like, no, they're across the board. Evil has no box it plays in. It's all over the place. But there are some basic principles that I've seen personally. I'd love to hear from you guys. Basic principles, you get way off sometimes with like strategies, but then we always have to come back to this. This is one thing that we can't get away from.
So we partner with 7 programs, right? But this one particular program that I worked with, we had a very concrete set of boundaries. So, so parameters, and within those parameters, they could weave and flow however they wanted to. But at the end of the day, like, you can't cuss out your staff without some form of consequence. Right. This particular program, the consequence would be they either lost some allowance money or they would get some lines. So they would have to write standards like back in the day, which they hated.
And they were always really good lines. They would come up with the best lines to go with what it was.
Sometimes it would be like their favorite rap song, and by the end of it, they like hate it, so little things like that. And we tried to make it fun. We wanted them to succeed. That was, you know what I mean? And so but we also want them to grow. And so you have to set up some structures. So that's one way that we would uniform it. We all have these same structures, but one girl might get, she might lose a privilege, like all the kids are going to a movie today and sorry, you can't. And then another kid might make that exact same mistake, but get to go to the movie because of who she is, Right. Yep. And so there was a lot of Jesus involved in those decisions, and just like, okay, what's the best? It's parenting. You know what I mean? Like parenting, like you would know with your 4 kids, so. Did you have something?
And that's probably the example I use for people when they ask what we do. It's like, even though it's a organization of people. It's just parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Really, that's the basics for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It sounds like the same with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Brandon was saying, we have 7 partner homes, soon to be an 8th that we work with. So they're all a little bit different. But what they do have in common is Jesus is at the center. It is a lot of parenting and guidelines. And the kids, they also have a lot of fun, I think, too, where they are. They get to do things and to be kids. Schooling is a non-negotiable. You need to go to school and catch up on your education, therapy.
Yeah, we find the school thing is really interesting. A lot of our girls are behind. Traffickers don't care what your GPA is.
Right.
And then some of them just are behind when they come in. So all the programs will test the kids. They won't tell the kid, hey, you're reading at a 4th grade level. That's just the book they give them. But what we find in the beginning is the girl always comes, not always, but a lot of the girls come in and say, well, I'm just stupid.
Mm-hmm.
You can't teach me. I'm just stupid. And when they're not stupid, they're uneducated. But part of the process of being trafficked is you're worried about today and tomorrow, and you don't get beyond today and tomorrow. So that ability to dream is non-existent. But what happens when education comes in is they begin to see themselves with the capability of doing something. You know what? I did do that. I can do that. And we have tutors that tutor the kids, because part of the process of going through the trauma is it's really hard to focus on one thing for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. So the tutor comes in and just makes it fun. And it really, makes it fun to learn. And as they begin to learn, they begin to dream. And they begin to say, you know what, I can do this. And there's a physical change in how they carry themselves, how they talk. They sit up straighter. They smile because they begin to understand, I am a person of worth, and I can do this. And they always have crazy dreams that they want to do, and they want to be
a brain surgeon,
a lawyer. But it's just that process of, I am a person of worth that is worthy enough to be able to dream about who I want to be. And it's so cool.
My favorite line that I've heard from one of the kids is, I'm not stupid. I just needed help. Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
We have one of our programs has really embraced the tutoring, and all their kids are in tutoring. And when we were visiting a few months ago, when we were getting ready to leave and go out the door, one of the staff stopped us and grabbed our hands, and she said, I just have to let you know that tutoring has been the biggest game changer here in years. We've never seen something be so impactful for the kids. They have 2 kids and it's not just academic healing, which is important, right? Mm-hmm. The Lord gave us a brain. He wants us to use it, and he wants to invest in that. But it's more than academic healing. So 2 of the girls graduated high school or did their GED equivalent at like age 16, and both are still in program attending junior college online. Oh. 2 more are almost graduated and ready to start junior college. So cool. And then a 5th one is starting to enter in that same thing. But it's just the confidence that it breeds in them. And like Phil was talking about, just to dream about a future, and something that you could become or be, or that you're smart.
So you're really running a school. You have a school within the not
programs do.
The programs do. We don't. Yeah, we support, but all the kids. Every program is a little bit different, but all the kids have school, and then on top of that, they can take advantage of tutoring through New Day for Children. Yeah,
which is sort of a home like tutoring situation. It's not going to a public school.
It's Zoom. They tutor through Zoom.
So the tutors are on Zoom. All the kids' schooling looks different. Like where you were, it was packets, right?
A lot of it was packets. Well, some of the kids, honestly, like you would have a 16-year-old, right? But her trauma, she would be more like an 8-year-old in a lot of ways,
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them are like, you should be in college, but you're
so
14,
smart.
You know what I mean? So it's all across the board. And so you can't uniform their schooling. You can't bring a teacher to teach them all. It doesn't work. So individualized education, and then the online Zoom tutors.
Yeah, every program is. We have one program. They have a full-time bilingual teacher, and so all the kids are learning. I mean, literally, they tell jokes in Spanish and stuff, and they're all from 6 months, like we didn't see him for like 5 months or something. It was like, wow. Go ahead.
Yeah, we got to this program and it was crazy because the kids learned that they were going to get a Spanish speaking girl that was going to come join them. So they were putting up Spanish words on the walls and they would learn Spanish.
Trying to learn in order to
they
prep
would
for
learn
this
among
girl.
so the kids.
They
The
wanted
girls
to
did
welcome her.
it. Yeah.
So we got to
The other girls.
The other
Yeah.
girls did.
So
it.
we
They
got to
found
the
it, yeah.
program and they all were talking and the Spanish speaking girl was talking and obviously told a joke because all the other girls laughed. And I thought, that is so amazing that
That's
in a matter
fast.
of like 3 months, the girls that were in the program anticipating the girl coming taught themselves how to speak Spanish to
Wow.
the point of laughing at her jokes. And it was so cool to watch.
Well, and there are teachers bilingual. So
Right.
now there's 10 girls there. One is Spanish speaking, but her English is now very,
Nice.
very good. And then the rest are doing quite well in their Spanish. And then we have another program that the kids actually attend school. It's about 20 minutes from them. And it's a beautiful, beautiful campus. I won't say the name of the school, but they let the kids attend tuition free. They're all scholarship. They have trauma informed teachers in their classroom. They have like a meltdown room. I don't know what you would call it, but you know,
A
if you're-
cry room.
yeah, cry room. If you just need some space, and it's a beautiful, beautiful campus with old buildings and rolling hills. And then as they catch up in school and as they heal, they can go out for the track team. They can join the chorus or whatever it is. So every program is just a little bit different.
So I think I'm starting to get an idea. So you are raising money for different programs.
Right.
Okay.
For families of American children who have been sex trafficked, because most people couldn't afford the care for this specialized care. So New Day exists for 3 reasons. Do you want to cover this part or? Okay. For one is if
That's our shtick.
so
It's usually my environment.
we exist for 3 reasons. And one is most people, if they found out their child has been trafficked, have no idea where to turn to for help.
Right.
They have no idea what their child needs, and even if they knew where to find it. So that's where we come in. We help place their children in a home that's specific for commercially sexually exploited children and youth. And so to get the kind of trauma-informed therapy and care that they need and the safe place to be. So we help place kids. Then the next thing is most families can't afford the cost.
Yeah.
So
What's it cost?
and I'll let you cover that part.
On average, it's about $5,000 a month per kid, and then on top of that is therapy, and it's the tutors and that piece. So it can range anywhere from $4,000 to $7,000 a month.
And where are the funds coming from?
We're totally privately funded, so
Okay.
it comes from people, and we have all sorts of people that give us $5 a month, and we have some that give us $100,000 a year, but it's all privately funded.
But if you don't pay with $500,000, then we could place those next 5 kids.
Right.
Yeah.
And so locally, do you have any homes in Reading?
No, I don't know how much we want to get into this. There's only one home left in the state of California.
Oh, get into it.
You'll get into it. California is we'll just say it's different.
So let's
Working
go
with
there. I want to
minors.
know. Like,
Let's
tell
do it.
me a little bit about what's going on, because that's the thing people don't understand is how when the government says we're here to help you, that is an oxymoron.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, especially when it comes. Okay, so y'all just jump in.
I can jump in a little bit.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll keep some details covered
Yeah.
for confidentiality.
Yep.
But we had one of the programs. It was the original founding program, or when New Day was founded. It partnered with a program here in California, not too far from this area. That's where I worked. Sorry, you getting all that? Anyway, so, that program essentially got muscled out by the state of California.
Department of Social Services.
Yeah. Big lawsuit, smear campaign is brutal. And sent up SWAT teams to defame, like all of this. It was
bad.
very bad, very scary for the girls, right? You know what I mean? They have think of all of the opinions that a lot of these kids would have around authority or like the police and things like that. And so I think it was 17 officers,
Sheesh.
SWAT raid, dogs, very scary for the girls. And while the police were there, it actually kind of got funny by the end because by the end, the police were like, what are we doing here? And we're hanging out with the kids and like making the kids laugh. And it was like, they could tell like, this is some of the claims that are being attacked or that this organization is being attacked with are absolutely bogus and they're doing a good thing kind of thing. And so there was actually some fun redemption there. But anyways, at the end of the day, California pushed them out of the state. And so they had to relocate. Yeah.
And they were the last home of its kind that worked with trafficked kids that was still open here. Everyone else has either shut their doors or moved out of state.
Interesting.
Yeah. So in response, a wonderful organization opened up a small home. The kids can only stay a maximum of a year because they work under a care affidavit. So if I have a child that's being trafficked, I can assign them that they can care for my child for a year. After that, the state will start to intervene, and then
Because we all know that's way better.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I think from a legal standpoint, about probably a year and a half, 2 years ago now, California decriminalized loitering. So we used to work with juvenile hall and police and that. So it used to be, there's a 12-year-old on a street on International Boulevard in Oakland. It's 3 a.m. Police would arrest that 12-year-old for loitering, take him in, and they could keep him for 3 days. So they get a social worker, that piece. We get a call from the social worker going, hey, I've got a 12-year-old. So that doesn't exist anymore. So the traffic in International Boulevard in Oakland has doubled overnight because the police can't do anything. That 12-year-old can sit on that street corner all night long, and legally they can't do anything. So that certainly is from a pure legal perspective. It's very difficult to do anything about it. But I would say that I think God used that because we used to have one program in Northern California. Trafficking is nationwide. So now we have programs from Louisiana to California. So we're able to serve far more girls in far more areas than we were when we were just focused on Northern California. So as always, God took something that was totally evil and turned it into something very positive that we're able to do that. And it's our goal is we need to be regional. There's states that don't even have any programs. I mean, we seek out programs and then we introduce ourselves and we start funding those programs. So basically, there's 100,000 kids right now, right this moment being trafficked, and we have 40 beds.
And nothing for boys either.
Yeah, and we have nothing. Boys are a whole different conversation.
There was one,
but
there's nothing.
There are no
boys.
programs.
There were
for boys.
14 beds in the state of Florida and for all of America, and it closed down in 2020.
It was June of 2021.
Yeah.
21.
What's the reason for that?
Finances is why they had to close their doors. Daniel Academy is in the process of being built in the state of Colorado, and it will be the only home for minor sex trafficked boys. It doesn't mean that there's nowhere for these kids to go, but we're talking
very specific.
Specific. And what we've seen is when people come in to work with the sex trafficked community, minor with kids, they may have loads of experience with troubled teens and stuff like that, or social work, whatever it is. And they all said, this is just a whole other level.
Right.
It's just a whole other level of trauma and issues. So God bless all those people that work with them.
Teen Challenge is a different version of.
Teen Challenge doesn't take minors in California. It hasn't for years, is my understanding.
I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah. If they do now, it's new. Years ago when I looked into it, because I thought, Teen Challenge, but they had a home in Nevada. I don't know if that exists anymore or not.
There's a lot more programs for 18 and over because it's just easier. It's much easier. It's much more financially.
Legally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are very, very few that want to step into that minors. It's just.
So where do they go from 12 to 18?
Right.
You know what I mean? They're just, think of all those issues. It's a done deal. Most of them, one of the statistics is by after 7 years from the point of entry is their life expectancy.
Yeah. Right. So if a child isn't removed from the situation, their life expectancy is 7 years.
So if you're 10, you're gone by 17.
Right.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So with the kids you guys are seeing, how do you have custody right now with these kids? Is it the parents are giving custody?
No,
Yeah.
the parents they retain custody.
Okay.
Except for that one California, they just work under a care affidavit. I'm not sure about all the legal ramifications, but they still have custody of their child.
So in California, they won't let parents do that. Even if they could afford paying for it, they wouldn't allow their kids to do that.
I'm not quite sure I'm understanding.
So California, so right now we have some kids from the Bay Area, so they can go to these programs out of state. There's just no program in the state except for the one which has select rules.
And how California works is they do have group homes, but one of the challenges, one of the things to allow a child to go to a group home in the state of California is they have to be allowed to have a cell phone. So what will happen is the trafficker will drive up with a girl that he's trafficking, and he will tell that girl, "You go in. If you don't come out with somebody else, we're going to have a problem." So they become breeding grounds because traffickers use them because they know, hey, go in and find me a girl, because they come and go and they can have a phone. Well, the bad guys have the phones. That's where the problem began in the first place. So that's a real challenge.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
I have a million
is
sassy
right.
comments and I'm keeping them in. I'm like,
Well, you have to kind of joke about it or get pissed. That's my default. I mean, how
Or
can
both.
make because it is ridiculous if we're not protecting these kids, and it's evil for not protecting these kids.
Well, what we've noticed the trend, and again, none of us are attorneys and stuff like that, so just take it anywho. But what we've noticed is that over the last, I'll venture to say 10 or so years, children's rights supersede their need to be protected and provided for and cared for. Their rights are more important than protecting them.
oh yeah, I'll speak to that. I was talking about this the other day, but if I had as a staff, so I understand that there are times where a kid is from an abusive situation, and if a parent hears that their child is sexually active, the parent could freak out. So I understand those situations do happen, but as a staff who is dealing with a trafficked kid, and we go to a doctor and the doctor is like, okay, you can ask your staff to step out now. Those kinds of things. And so by law, I have to let this kid go and have this doctor appointment by themselves. They could be pregnant and we have no idea. We can't meet their medical needs because we, by law, can't know what's going on with them. You know what I mean? So things like that, very frustrating. And so I know there's some gray area there for why those rules are in place, but I'm in the long run, I think it hurts. I really do. Right. So
you have homes in, do you still have homes in California?
Just one.
Just the one, and that's the one that works under the care affidavit. The kids can only stay a
1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And then
It's
the
a
other
good
states are Louisiana,
Texas,
Colorado.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And kids from here can go there and get help. So if they needed to, you could just
we
load
do that
up there
all the time. We take a kid and say, okay, who's got a bed? Colorado's got a bed. We're going to take the kid's going to go to Colorado.
But for 100,000 children, there's only 40 beds.
Right.
Well, I'll say there are more than 40 beds.
Sorry.
We have about 40 at our disposal, but there are definitely not enough programs for kids at all. And we'll say, yes, California kids, if their parents have or grandparents or somebody has custody of them, then they can go. If they're ward of the court or in our foster system, California is not so keen on sending them anywhere. So it makes it more difficult.
If you get help, money, obviously, so we could have more beds and more people resourced to help these kids. What are ways people could get involved and be helpful as well?
I think the easiest and first way is help us spread the word. People don't understand. People don't get it. So just help us, and invite us in. We'll go in pretty much anywhere and talk to, 3 people or more about what's going on, what we do. We talk about what's going on and what our role is in answering that problem. So the first thing is, be bold. Ask us to come and talk. I think it's knowing what your kids are doing, knowing what that, check that cell phone. It's sexting is ridiculous out there. What's the statistic?
I got it. It's on here.
I mean, the amount of kids that are wrapped up in sexting, and Brandon's going to come up with that, is huge. Know where your kids are at, know where they're at on the internet, know what their phone looks like. That piece is gigantic. So I think the two biggies for us is ask us to speak. Obviously we need money. That's obvious, but we get that not everybody can do that. But ask us to speak. Be that community liaison, that community champion that says, I'm going to get involved in this. I'm going to join a walk. Join a group. Be an advocate.
And I'm going to say that everybody can give. And it doesn't have to be, I'm not talking just about New Day for Children or Rescue Kids. Everybody has something to give. And I think if I had something I want people to know, this can seem overwhelming and like you can't make a difference. But if evil people, Phil has this in his office, if evil people can come together to do such horrific things and traffic our kids, God's people could come together and make a huge difference in the life of a child. And most people have $5 a month or $20 a month. Give to somebody, because all those little pieces come together to do good and to help someone.
So say I have this magic wand, boom, poof, we have $100 billion available now.
Woo-hoo!
So what's our weakness now? Where is the lack now?
That's a y'all question.
I would say, first we have to train the team. What we find is the programs, it's not like your McDonald's franchisee who has got this great plan of how you roll it out. What our programs are really run by is passionate people that have that have a dream to help kids. So it would be, training and really developing consistent programs and consistent training from state to state. It would be identifying different programs and growing the number of beds.
Yes, growing the number of beds. Because right now, if we find more programs, we can't fund them. So, it's sort of, yes. So it would be to find more beds. And earlier I had said that New Day existed for 3 reasons. We only got to 2. So the third ties into this. So one is,
3 again.
So the first one is to help families find a place and to place their child and transport them and get them to their safe place where they can start their healing journey. The second is to help fund their child's care. I think the longest we've had somebody in program was almost 5 years. So they can stay. They don't have to leave. They could stay, right? And then the third thing is we vet really good programs and come alongside and make them excellent. And that's through tutoring, through offering therapy for the staff. If we had more money, it'd be like more school supplies out. The sky's the limit. You could just make them better. But definitely, if we had more beds, we could, and the finances to fill them, definitely.
And you're partnering with people who are doing these programs already, doing a great job.
They're the experts.
And you're just saying, all right, how many beds you got?
Right.
I don't know. I love it.
Yeah.
This is genius, especially what I've discovered is a lot of people want to reinvent the wheel. So they want to do all of that stuff.
No.
No.
We already have people that are trauma informed, trauma trained. They know this stuff. People that have worked in just over years and years of experience, right? So again, they're the experts in this. Let them be the experts. Families are lost. It's always a panic. Everybody's flipping their lid. They're just freaked out about their kid. So it's a good relationship. Go.
And what I would say is we firmly believe and we are passionate about trauma doesn't end at 18.
No.
Trauma doesn't end at 21. So what we do and what we will always do is we walk with the girls as long as they want to walk with us. So if we started 14 years ago and the girl was 13, she's now 27. but she still needs therapy. She still needs, so we walk with those girls. We have a life coach that works with them, but we will never walk away from them. We'll never say, hey, guess what? You've graduated. There's no such thing.
Yeah, your trauma's done.
Because trauma is going to manifest different at 18, and then all of a sudden they start to date, and then I get married at 21 or 25. Well, then I'm going to trigger differently, and then I have a child. I'm going to trigger differently. So we're going to walk with that survivor as long. When they quit calling us, we'll know, okay, we're done. But we're going to walk with them as long as they want to walk, and it is a huge part about what we do. We're never going to say, hey, you graduated, congratulations, you're healed. Now go be a good adult. That's right.
Yeah, and it looks different too.
Yeah.
Like,
when you were talking about 4 kids and how different they are, we try to do that with the kids that we serve as well. Like we have one girl trafficked almost 10 years, in the Bay Area from very young, super bright, very motivated, graduated high school with straight A's, a full ride to college, won a big national award. But her trauma is severe. And so concentrating is hard. So we're paying her rent through her bachelor's degree, as long as we have the funds to do
amazing.
it. Yeah. So that she doesn't have to work so much to put herself through school.
Yeah.
So she still has to work, but not, 30 hours, 40 hours carrying a full load because it just takes her longer, but she's a junior and killing it. She's doing great.
And then another girl might need a laptop for college. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
it's just like however they pull in what we can do.
So any of the girls go on and now start helping with rescuing other girls?
Yeah.
Yeah. That same girl. What is she in school for? Like, she's pursuing? What are her bachelors?
She was going to double major in sociology, criminal justice, and social work. She's thinking maybe she doesn't want her whole life to be about trauma, which I think is brilliant.
I agree. That's fair.
I think it's really fair. But they have come back and spoke for us. We've had alumni that come to horse camp to talk to the kids that are in program now at horse camp. We've hired 3 different people over the years to do different things for New Day for Children. When they needed work, they went on to get different full-time jobs, but we've hired people. Anyways.
Never mind. It
I hate that.
I was in and then it was gone.
Yeah, our webpage X number of years ago was designed by a survivor and helped us build it. So and now she's knocking it in the marketing world, doing a great job. So yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say even girls in program, even as kids, they will. For example, a lot of them won't share like what happened to them, or a lot of them won't identify their traffickers because for whatever reason they have like attachment to them or trauma bonds, those kinds of things. But a lot of them will speak up because this could be happening to another girl and I want her to be safe too.
Yeah.
And so they will identify them for that purpose, which I just think is really cool, like them advocating for one another in that way, So it might not go on to be forever and ever advocacy, but there's like moments where they're like, oh no, I'll speak for that because so.
Well, I absolutely love this. This is great. And it's been such an honor to connect, because I think we're going to probably spend some more time connecting down the road with what you guys are doing. I can't wait for you to meet my wife, Anita, and to have her hear your heart as well, because we're heading into a phase similar to what you guys are doing of we don't want to have to build everything. Let's equip the people who can do these things. So I love it. Yeah. Really love it.
Thank you.
People want to connect with you. Where's the best phone number, website, social media? What was it?
Email info@newdayforchildren.com.
No, more info.
So Brandon's the communication. Communication question.
Okay, so it's more info at newdayforchildren.com to email us. You can check out our website at newdayforchildren.com. Yes, we're on social media at newdayforchildren.com. So just look that up.
New Day for FOR, not the number 4. New Day for Children.
Yes. And then if you can see in this, I don't know if you can see it, but we've got a fancy logo. So
oh, wow. Yeah.
That's how you know it's us.
Well, let's I just want to pray for this, because I know that there's going to be things trying to sabotage our technology. So Jesus, we ask for your blessing on this. We ask for your your wisdom and your guidance in this process of everything we're doing to rescue your children. And we ask that you deliver them from evil, you protect them, that we would be also protected. And this technology and the things that we're building, the video, the sound, everything would be protected as well. Deliver us from these evils. And God, let us really put a dent and intimidate hell the same way that Muhammad Ali went all 8 rounds and put George Foreman on the mat. Thank you, God. Amen.
Amen.
Well, man, that's great.